Samantha Carter stood motionless in the center of the combat simulation, her body rigid as her mind raced with 1,000 calculations. Her squadmates moved with precision around her, sweeping the mock urban battlefield with practiced efficiency. Each step they took seemed to carry them closer to the target while Samantha remained frozen, her weapon held in a limp grip, her neural interface flashing a warning in red. The other soldiers didn't notice at first, their focus solely on the task at hand. But as the seconds ticked by, it became impossible to ignore her. Major Quinn stood in the observation deck above, arms folded, his expression a mask of quiet disappointment. Samantha could feel his gaze, heavy and cold, bearing down on her like a weight she couldn't shake. The hum of the simulation's artificial tension seemed to press against her chest, each pulse of the virtual battlefield a reminder of her failure. Her squadmates, who had once shown promise as close companions, now showed their true feelings. The whispered jokes and the occasional muttered insults were all too loud in the silence of the simulation. They were well aware that she was the weak link, the liability. Corporal Renfro's voice cut through the tension, sharp and mocking as he passed by her frozen form. Maybe it's time for them to replace her hardware. Would save us all a lot of trouble. His words, meant to wound, only amplified the growing ache in Samantha's chest. She wasn't just failing the mission, she was failing them, and worse, she was failing herself. The familiar panic set in, her mind overwhelmed by the flood of calculations and predictions, all the data pouring into her consciousness at once. Too fast to process. She couldn't act. She couldn't move. Her eyes flickered briefly to the side, catching sight of her reflection in the polished surface of the nearby equipment. The sight was foreign, almost alien. The confident woman she once hoped to be seemed absent, replaced by someone trapped, caged by her own mind. The red pulse in her neural interface flickered ominously as if it, too, recognized her struggle. Freeze the simulation, Major Quinn ordered, his voice flat and devoid of emotion. Samantha's heart dropped into her stomach as the room paused around her. Her every mistake frozen in time, she remained still, trapped in her own failure. Her breathing felt too loud in the quiet of the room. The squad moved past her, their backs turned to her, not even offering a glance of concern or sympathy. It was another failure, another round of disappointment. She had hoped that today would be different, that somehow, someway, she would finally break through the barrier in her mind. But all she could do was watch as her squad achieved the objective without her. The data displayed in front of her showed no improvements, no progress, just the same frustrating results. Her shoulders slumped as she holstered her weapon, mechanically moving through the motions, still frozen in place, even as the others finished their task. Major Quinn's voice echoed in her earpiece. That's 28 failures in a row. Lieutenant Carter, the words stung. They weren't just words. They were the confirmation of her worst fear. Major Quinn, she whispered under her breath, the words slipping out before she could stop them. I don't understand. Why does this keep happening to me? The question hung in the air, an unspoken plea for help. But she knew the answer. It was simple. She was broken. The glitch, and there was nothing she could do to fix it. Her mind, capable of processing countless variables, was the one thing standing in her way. And now, as she stood motionless in the midst of yet another failed simulation, she was starting to wonder if she was ever meant to be anything more than that. Samantha's mind had always worked differently. From the moment she could speak, she was solving puzzles that left other children bewildered. Numbers and patterns were her refuge. The only thing that made sense in a world that often felt chaotic. By the age of 10, she was already solving equations that most adults couldn't manage without a calculator. Her teachers were impressed, but her classmates were not. They didn't understand why Samantha couldn't relate to them the way they related to each other. She wasn't just smart, she was an anomaly. And to them, that made her an outsider. In school, Samantha became known for her ability to answer questions before the teacher even finished asking, but what her teachers saw as exceptional, her peers saw as a threat. They didn't understand why she couldn't laugh at the same jokes, or why she always seemed lost in her own thoughts. She had never been interested in the same things they were. They spent their time talking about popular trends, sports, and relationships, while Samantha's mind was constantly consumed by equations, by systems, by logic. It wasn't that she didn't want to connect with them, she simply didn't know how. She tried so hard to fit in, but in a world that valued people for how well they could socialize, Samantha was always on the outside, watching from a distance. The isolation wasn't just a phase, it followed her through adolescence and into her military training. When she joined the military, she thought she might finally find a place where her abilities would be valued. But the same pattern repeated itself. Her mind, which was built to process data at lightning speed, was a burden in the world of physical combat and teamwork. Samantha could analyze every potential outcome, every move her squad could make in any given scenario. But she couldn't act. She couldn't move fast enough. The pressure to be everything, to excel in every area, to be perfect mounted, as she realized that her exceptional mind had become both a gift and a prison. There were moments when she wondered if she was even meant to be in the military at all. Her ability to see solutions before others did, to understand the complexities of battle tactics, should have made her an asset. Instead, it seemed to make her a liability. The simulations were designed to test not just intelligence, but the ability to perform under pressure. And it was here that Samantha faced her greatest struggle. The pressure wasn't just the weight of the simulations. It was the weight of everyone else's expectations. It was hard to escape the feeling that she was always on the verge of failure, that her mind, which had once been her greatest asset, was now the very thing holding her back. She watched as her squadmates executed missions flawlessly, while she stood frozen, paralyzed by the flood of data that her brain couldn't process in real time. Major Quinn's disappointed gaze was always there, a constant reminder that she was falling short. It wasn't that she wasn't capable, it was that her mind was too advanced, too fast for the rigid structure of the program. And every time she failed, it felt like a confirmation that she didn't belong, that she was never going to be the soldier they wanted her to be. The more she tried to catch up, the more she felt like she was falling behind. Each failure built on the last, layering doubt upon doubt until it felt like a heavy weight she couldn't shake. She began to question if she was truly cut out for this, or if perhaps her abilities, so special and so unique, were never meant for a world like this. Maybe she wasn't broken, but just out of place. But if she wasn't meant for this, where else could she go? The uncertainty gnawed at her. Was she destined to live a life of failure, forever on the edge of something great, but never able to reach it? In those quiet moments, when the noise of the world seemed to fade away, Samantha wondered if anyone truly understood her, if anyone ever would. And that fear, the fear of being misunderstood, of being left behind, was what terrified her more than anything else. She wasn't sure where she fit in this world, and that uncertainty was the most isolating feeling of all. Samantha sat in the sterile briefing room, her fingers tapping nervously on the metal table. Commander Blackwood had asked her to meet him here, his voice calm but urgent. She had no idea what to expect, only that she had failed yet another simulation. The weight of that failure was pressing down on her, suffocating her in a way she couldn't shake. Her mind raced, bouncing between the recent failure and her increasing doubts about herself. As the door clicked open, Blackwood entered, his expression unreadable. He didn't waste time. "Lieutenant Carter," he began, his voice steady. "You are part of a classified program called Project Cardinal." The words hit Samantha like a punch to the gut. She blinked, the shock momentarily freezing her in place. Project Cardinal. She had heard rumors, whispers, but never anything concrete. It sounded like something out of a science fiction novel, not a reality she was living. Blackwood continued, explaining that Project Cardinal was a covert military initiative designed to enhance cognitive abilities in soldiers. They had been testing the limits of human potential, pushing the boundaries of what the human mind could do in combat scenarios, and Samantha, she had been a part of this program since the beginning. Her intelligence, her mind, was not a natural gift. It had been artificially enhanced. She wasn't failing. She was designed to fail, or at least designed to struggle until the program's true purpose could be unlocked. The pieces clicked together in Samantha's mind: the freezing during simulations, the overwhelming flood of data, the paralysis. These weren't her weaknesses. They were the result of the enhancements pushing her brain to process information faster than she could handle. The limiters in her neural interface were designed to hold her back, to prevent her from being overwhelmed by her own mind. But every time she failed, it was because the system was trying to stop her from achieving her true potential. Samantha sat back in her chair, stunned, her heart pounding. It was as if the ground had shifted beneath her, leaving her unsure of what was real anymore. All this time, she thought she was broken. She thought she couldn't keep up, that her mind wasn't enough. But now she realized that what she had been struggling with was the very thing that made her special. Her mind wasn't the problem. It was the system trying to contain it. Blackwood saw the confusion in her eyes, but he didn't wait for her to process it fully. "We've activated the protocol. Omega Seed," he said, his voice keener now. "You'll be able to access your full potential. Everything you've been struggling with will finally make sense." Samantha's breath caught in her throat. Omega Seed. She didn't know what it was, but the urgency in Blackwood's tone told her it was something important. Without another word, Blackwood activated the sequence. Samantha's head buzzed, her vision briefly blurring as a wave of clarity washed over her. The data that once overwhelmed her now seemed to fall into place. Each calculation, each decision, sharp and clear. For the first time in her life, she felt like her mind was fully aligned with her body. The potential she had been struggling to reach was now in her grasp. She looked at Blackwood, her eyes wide. I can do this." It wasn't just a statement. It was a realization, a truth she had never known until now. Samantha Carter wasn't broken. She was just beginning. The journey she had feared was only just starting. And for the first time, she was ready. The first time Samantha stepped into the simulation after activating Omega 7, everything changed. The chaos that had once overwhelmed her was now a series of clear, manageable calculations. Each movement, every decision, was calculated milliseconds in advance. As her squad began their mission, she moved with a precision that took even her by surprise. Where before she had frozen, she now flowed through the simulation like a well-oiled machine. She anticipated enemy positions before they appeared, her weapon ready before the target even had a chance to react. Her squad watched in stunned silence as she moved with an almost supernatural speed, her every step deliberate and flawless. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. Corporal Renfro, who had once mocked her, stood in disbelief as Samantha cleared one target after another with calculated efficiency. "What the hell just happened?" he muttered under his breath, his eyes wide. Samantha barely registered his words. Her mind was operating at a level that felt almost foreign to her, like a switch had been flipped. And now everything made perfect sense. Every move, every tactical decision was instinctual. She wasn't thinking anymore. She was simply executing, her body responding with a fluidity she had never experienced before. Yet, amidst the rush of clarity and precision, a nagging voice in the back of her mind began to stir. She had never been this fast, this accurate. Her mind was working in ways that felt almost mechanical, as if she were no longer fully human. With every flawless shot, every calculated maneuver, she questioned what it meant to be herself. Was she losing her humanity? Was she becoming something else, something artificial? These were questions she had never considered before. All she had ever wanted was to be the best soldier she could be. But now, she feared that achieving that goal might cost her the very essence of what made her human. As the simulation progressed, her squad's admiration turned to awe. They could no longer deny what was happening before their eyes. Samantha wasn't just keeping up. She was leading them with unparalleled precision. Every move she made was executed flawlessly. From clearing a room to predicting enemy tactics, the squad began to rely on her in ways they never had before, following her lead without hesitation. But even as they saw her as the perfect soldier, Samantha couldn't shake the feeling of unease that clung to her. In the midst of a particularly intense engagement, she found herself questioning whether this was truly her. Was this enhanced mind, this perfect execution, who she was meant to be? The doubts swirled as she moved through the simulation, her body performing almost automatically, while her thoughts raced in a different direction. Was she still the same person? Or had the protocol transformed her into something else entirely? Her thoughts were interrupted by Major Quinn's voice crackling through her earpiece. "Well done, Lieutenant Carter. You've completed the mission faster than anyone thought possible. I think we've only scratched the surface of your potential." His praise felt hollow in her ears. Was this what success was supposed to feel like, or was it just the result of something she didn't fully understand? The truth was, she was no longer sure of what success even meant. Samantha stood in the aftermath of the mission, her chest rising and falling with steady breaths. She had executed everything perfectly, but there was still a lingering emptiness inside her. She had mastered the battlefield, but had she lost something in the process? What had once been a simple desire to prove herself had now become a complex battle within her own mind. Her enhanced abilities had unlocked her potential, but at what cost? And what was left of the person she had been before? Samantha stood in the dimly lit room, her mind racing. Commander Blackwood had left her with a decision that felt heavier than anything she had faced before. Project Cardinal could revolutionize warfare. He had said, you could control drones, AI systems, entire battalions of automated soldiers. Your mind could be the hub of a new military force. The words echoed in her head, and she couldn't shake the image of herself commanding machines, an instrument of war, more than a human being. But was that really what she wanted? She had already felt herself slipping away, her humanity fading, as she relied more on the enhanced abilities that had unlocked in her. Every battle she fought now felt like a test of her skill. But at what cost? The idea of becoming a tool for the military, of commanding drones and AI systems without ever making a real connection to those she led, terrified her. Samantha didn't want to become a weapon. She didn't want to lose herself in the numbers, the strategies, the cold precision that had once been her savior, but now seemed like her greatest threat. Her thoughts swirled as she stood in front of the mirror, staring at the woman who had once dreamed of being a soldier human, vulnerable and real. Was that still her, or had she already become something else? The war inside her mind raged on. Should she embrace this new power and accept her role in a future where machines and humans blended together? Or should she fight to keep her humanity intact, even if it meant giving up everything she had worked for? Samantha's heart raced as she thought of her squad, of the men and women who had once mocked her, but now looked to her for guidance. She wasn't just their leader now. She was a symbol of what the future could hold. But could she live with the price? Could she live with the idea that she might lose her soul in the pursuit of victory? Blackwood's voice interrupted her thoughts. You don't have to decide right now, Samantha, but the future is here. It's in your hands, and you're the only one who can shape it. His words were both a promise and a warning, but they left her feeling more alone than ever. For a long moment, she stood still, her fingers trembling as they gripped the edge of the table. Then, slowly, she whispered to herself, I can't become this machine. Not like this. Samantha turned away from the reflection. Making her decision, the world she had been offered was tempting, but it was a world where she could no longer recognize herself. Her humanity was worth more than any mission. It was the only thing she had left that truly made her who she was. Samantha Carter stood at the front of a new squad, watching as they moved through their training exercises with a level of coordination she had never seen before. She had become the kind of leader she once needed, the kind who understood that true strength wasn't just in precision, but in the ability to inspire others, to help them grow. These recruits weren't just learning tactics, they were learning to trust themselves and each other. Just as she had learned to trust in her own humanity, she could see it in their eyes, the same determination, the same hunger to prove themselves that had driven her years ago. She reflected on how far she had come, from the woman who once doubted her place in the world to the leader who now stood before them, guiding them through each challenge with confidence. The transformation hadn't been easy. There were days when she questioned everything: her purpose, her path, and whether she had made the right choice in rejecting the power that Project Cardinal offered. But looking at the faces of the soldiers before her, Samantha knew she had chosen the right path. She had found a new purpose: to lead with heart, to teach the value of human strength, and to prove that even in a world increasingly defined by technology, it was the human element that made the difference. Her squad had learned more than tactics and combat skills. They had learned about resilience, empathy, and the power of human connection. They had become a team, not just because of their training, but because Samantha had shown them that the real strength came from lifting each other up, not relying solely on their abilities. The soldiers she once trained with those who had doubted her and mocked her had been left behind. But in her heart, she knew their doubts had pushed her to become the leader she was now. Samantha wasn't just another soldier in the program anymore. She was the one shaping the future of how soldiers would fight together, as a unit, relying on their humanity. As she looked over her new recruits, she realized that the true success of her journey wasn't in mastering combat or executing flawless missions. It was in the lives she had touched. In the soldiers, she had helped to become better versions of themselves. She had learned that leadership wasn't about perfection, it was about inspiring others to be their best, even in the face of adversity. Samantha Carter had become a hero, not because of her ability to control drones or calculate the perfect strategy, but because she had chosen to keep the human element at the core of everything she did. The future of Project Cardinal was still uncertain. But for Samantha, the future was clear. She was no longer just a soldier or a product of a secret military program. She was a leader, guiding others to find strength in their own humanity. And that, she realized, was the most powerful weapon of all. The new beginning had already started, and with it, a sense of purpose she had never known before. The future, whatever it held, was now hers to shape.